Hi everyone and welcome to KRYPTALK, that Irish guy that talks about Bitcoin. In this episode we're going to take a look at how Bitcoin has gone from 16,000 before topping out at 19,000 in the last week. We're also going to take a look at how PayPal is buying 70% of the new Bitcoin, how the phrase "I can't use it to buy coffee" is no longer a sound argument against Bitcoin, 4 metrics that suggest a Bitcoin price correction is imminent, and how virtually no one cares about Bitcoin. But before we do that, take a quick look at this. According to data analysis on this channel, 68.5% of the viewers aren't actually subscribed, whereas only 31.5% of the people watching these videos are subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest Bitcoin price action and news, just navigate to the KRYPTALK YouTube channel and click on the subscribe button. Also click on the bell notification and click all. That's way you'll never miss out on a video every time I upload a new video. Let's get started. This is episode number 21, and the title of this episode is Bitcoin is going to $30,000 and no one cares. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at the charts. Alright, let's get the basics out of the way. So this is the Kraken chart. These are 1 hourly candles and Bitcoin is trading at $18,325. So remember, a week ago it was $16,000 during the week. Then it wicked up here to just under $19,000, just shy of $19 in the Kraken chart. And then it dropped down below. So just going to take a look at what was the correction so far. I don't think you could really consider it a correction, maybe a small correction. But from here, from the top, it came down here, which would be 7%. Now, in fairness, Bitcoin, this bull run since March, the corrections, they haven't really been as severe as what we were used to in the 2017 market when it was more volatile and you have these like 30-40% corrections. Now it seems like a meme, as in people are saying, correction is coming. Of course, corrections are part of Bitcoin. It could happen. It definitely is due one, but maybe this time's a little bit different in terms of how the corrections happen. Maybe they're going to be less severe. Maybe the volatile isn't as bad and you're looking at kind of slower corrections or not as severe and a bit more consolidation. But to be honest, I do think a correction is coming with all that being said. I think that they're imminent really, and it would be healthy if you had a 30-40% correction. Now let's just have a look. Right, if you look at this, this was a descending triangle. Typically it's a bearish formation, but because Bitcoin's going parabolic, it tends to be ignoring TA, and it actually broke bullish or broke up out of this descending triangle pattern. So I'm just going to remove this line. I want to show you something. So if we just take this bottom line and just drag it over, like if you look at that, Bitcoin nearly had a perfect bounce off this line. See, I had the line drawn here because there was so much. There was all these, the bottom of these closes were very, very close to this. They were kind of bouncing off it there, kind of wicked down here, bounced off again here. Okay, it broke down below it here, but in general, there was a lot of activity here around this level, and that level there was the what level was it? It was 17,600. So that's obviously a significant resistance level, and it bounced off it again there today. So maybe it's going to continue to the upside. I also want to take a look at the EMA ribbon here. Notice that Bitcoin has broken down through the EMA ribbon here. Hopefully, it'll get support on the daily. Now, if you look at the daily, Bitcoin is still clearly above the EMA ribbon, and in general, of course, if it's under the EMA ribbon, it's bearish and possibly in a downtrend, and if it's above it, tends to be an uptrend. So hopefully, it seems to that correction or that kind of small dip seems to have stopped. But even if it goes down again, it could afford to go down as far as maybe about 16,500 before it gets some support off this. It's also well above the EMA ribbon on the weekly chart, and it's the same on the monthly. Now, I just want to take a quick look at the monthly chart on the macro. So these lines here, this was this downward trending resistance line that was holding the Bitcoin price down for 2 years. And then this was the upward trending support line that was keeping it up. And Bitcoin was trading in between these two lines for 2 years before it broke out there in July. I just want to take a quick look at what I said in episode number 9. If the Bitcoin price can break out of this resistance that's been holding the Bitcoin price for the last 2.5 years and break out of this bullish pennant, the price target will be 28,500. And just to finish out, switching over to the Bitcoin CME futures chart on the weekly, you can see a formation of a possible massive ascending triangle. So let's just say, hypothetically, it goes up here, bounces off the top resistance, gets rejected, comes back down for a correction, and then comes back here again. Added to the point of the breakout, and you're talking a target of about $43,000. All right, that's it for the chart for today. Okay, that brings us to the main focus of this episode. Bitcoin is going to $30,000 and no one seems to care. Now, before I do any of that, I have to do the final week of my dollar cost averaging experiment. So if you've been watching the channel, you know that for every episode, for the last 10 episodes, I've invested €10 worth of Bitcoin, and we're going to try and see if it's in profit or in loss. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on my phone, and then of course I'll share the totals. So I bought another €10 worth of Bitcoin on Coinbase, even though the fees are high. Right, so the total investment, 10 episodes, €10, total investment is €100. That's now worth €125.43. Okay, so the €25.43 is profit, bearing in mind that Coinbase still has very, very high fees. If you'd done that with 1,000, you'd have made 250,000 profit. If you'd done it with 10,000, you'd have made €2,500 and so on. So just to give you an idea of how dollar cost averaging works out. Now, it could go the other way as well. It could have been like, down to 90 or 75 or 50 even, but I just wouldn't sell. I just hold a bit longer until it goes up and then sell it off. So it's just a kind of a simple dollar cost averaging experiment. Now, I did say that if I hit 200 subscriptions before episode 21, I donate all this money to charity. Now, obviously, I haven't hit 200 subscriptions yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a note of that €125.43. And when I do hit 200 subs, I'll go ahead and donate all that money to charity. And maybe in the episodes kind of, when I hit like the 190 mark, I'll start asking people for like to leave, their favorite charities in the comments. And then I'll just pick one out of that because I haven't decided which charity I'm going to actually give the money to. Right, let's get on with the episode. Okay, so the format of this episode is going to be a little different. I'm just going to have a kind of a free flow conversation outlining some different reasons why I believe a 30,000 Bitcoin is probably on track for maybe within the next 12 months. Right, just a few things. Let's just have a quick recap of what happened so far this year. So back in March, Bitcoin crashed down to about $4,000. And since then, it's gone through a remarkable recovery, and it hit 19,000 during the week, and since then it's kind of cooled off a bit. It's kind of a little kind of a small consolidation pattern. It did have like a 7% kind of drop down from 19,000. It's recovered a little bit since. So I want you to kind of think about that. Like if Bitcoin was to crash tomorrow and go down to $4,000, what would you do? Like, would you still not buy? Would you try to throw some of your savings into it? Like, I mean, my opinion on this hasn't really changed. Like, I still believe that there's, like, first of all, you shouldn't be taking advice against a random person on the internet. I'm not a financial advisor, as I've mentioned pretty much in every second episode since I started this. But if you now know that this asset has the potential to swing between $4,000 and go up as far as $19,000, $20,000, maybe, and more than likely behind or beyond that, should I say, it would make sense to, even if you just plan on doing a trade, to buy in and then hold until it goes higher and then sell. So, like, what would you do? Would you buy a whole coin, or would you buy would you start dollar cost averaging? Would you just buy the dip, like if you're already in the market? Like, it's worth thinking about it. Of course, you could lose all your money. Maybe Bitcoin would drop down to zero. I don't believe that's happened, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't be investing more than you can afford to lose. So that's the first thing. So dropped down to 4,000 and now it's at 19,000. The second thing is, in the midst of this kind of global crisis, Bitcoin went through its third halving. So every 4 years, the Bitcoin flow or supply gets cut in half. So it dropped from 12.5 Bitcoin per block down to 6.25 Bitcoin per block. So what that means is now 6.25 Bitcoins is mined or created, brand new Bitcoins every 10 minutes. So that equates to about 900 every day. And of course, they're been rapidly kind of bought up by massive companies. So with that, Bitcoin then becomes rarer. It becomes scarcer. There'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That's a fact. That can't be changed. Like it's a governed protocol. It's like a part of its program. It cannot be changed. There'll only ever be 21 million. Only 18.5 million have been released so far. So only 18.5 million have actually been made so far. And because of that, then it's extremely scarce. If you have someone, you put them on a ledger, and then you lose your recovery phrase, or you lose your ledger and your passwords, they're gone. Like, no one can get them. Like, so there's great being your own bank, but with that becomes a lot of responsibility. That's the second thing. The third point I have written down here is the institutional investment. It's become a meme now that this bull run is different, and maybe it is because there's some massive institution. We have institution adoption this time, which we didn't have for 3 years ago in 2017. So companies like PayPal, Grayscale, Cash App, MicroStrategy, they're all investing in Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. So the idea is that they buy Bitcoin and then hold it over time. So eventually, it's they, instead of holding it in fiat and losing value, that they actually have this Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. So that's another massive factor. Just a fact that I read during the week there. PayPal apparently is buying 70% of all newly mined Bitcoins. So what happens is basically companies, and Grayscale is buying massive amounts as well. MicroStrategy has already bought massive amounts. So it's becoming scarce. And we're not going to see that until the squeeze maybe over the next, it's starting now, but we probably won't see that reflecting in the price action for another few months, maybe even a year, maybe even more. But they're basically been hoovered up, they've been gobbled up. The fourth point here, and this is another massive one, Bitcoin has been trading over $10,000 for 119 days. Just let that sink in. So the foundation now, the kind of the base price at the moment is over $10,000 for nearly, for 119 days. So the foundation, the base foundation, it's becoming stronger. And the last point I'm just going to make there is that no one cares. Nobody cares about Bitcoin. The people who have bought Bitcoin, whether it is the regular person like you and me, or whether it's your postman or your barber or your teacher or whatever, or those massive institutions, they care because they're paying attention. But the vast majority of the global population hasn't realized the potential of Bitcoin yet, or maybe doesn't understand it, and they're not sure how to invest in it. Of course, that's kind of compounded by the fact that a lot of people have, unfortunately, they're unemployed at the moment because of what's going on, or maybe they've lost their home. Some terrible things happen in the world at the moment, unfortunately. Or maybe they just don't know how to invest. Maybe they haven't realized the potential of it, or maybe they don't want to take a risk. But yeah, so at the moment, if you bear in mind the TA that I did earlier on, that prediction that I made, say back in episode 9 that I referred back to, we are on track to a new all-time high. And I don't think it's going to be too much longer to wait before we start hitting higher highs like that. Just a few things before I go into the last point. Always do your own research. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. It's a highly volatile asset. And again, use this as a springboard. The reason I created this channel is to help people understand Bitcoin more, to keep them up to date with the latest Bitcoin price action and news, and just kind of help people to understand Bitcoin a little bit more. But use it as a foundation to build your knowledge on Bitcoin, and always do your own research. So the last point I want to make is corrections are part of Bitcoin. A correction is going to come, like this whole 30 to 40% Bitcoin correction that everyone now is talking about, that they're making memes of. It's going to come. Bitcoin is definitely going to crash. Just a case of when. So the way I see this play out is an all-time high is coming. I've done my own research. I've been, doing this channel for months now. I started buying Bitcoin back in 2017, but 2 years before that, I was actually keeping a close eye on the Bitcoin price, and then gradually started learning more and more. So I've done my research. I do believe an all-time high is coming. Definitely within the next 12 months, but I think more than likely before Christmas, possibly before the end of this month now. It's just a question if the correction comes beforehand, and then Bitcoin takes that pullback, maybe it's 10, 20, 30, 40% before continuing to the upside again, or if it continues to go parabolic and it smashes to 20,000, goes up to 21, 22, maybe 25,000, and then takes its pullback. It's going to happen. So there's the two things that I'm going to make very, very clear. All-time high is coming, but so is a correction, just in case if the correction comes before that top out, or if it comes after. So if you're not in yet, it's still not too late. There's no benefit, I don't benefit from this. You're not investing in stocks of my company. No one owns Bitcoin. It's completely decentralized. But start doing your own research. Start thinking about this, and then start investing. All right, let's have a look at the news. The first article we're going to take a look at today is by Cointelegraph, and the headline reads, Bitcoin shortage is real and PayPal is the cause, KRYPTALK claims. So obviously PayPal is now going to start to offer Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but in order for them to sell it, they need to first get it themselves. So according to this article, PayPal is buying up roughly 70% of all the new Bitcoin mined. Pantera claims when PayPal went live, volume started exploding. The increase in 8-bit volume implies that within 4 weeks of going live, PayPal is already buying almost 70% of the new supply of coins. Of course, PayPal aren't the only one buying massive amounts. We've already looked at how the likes of Cash App, MicroStrategy and Grayscale are buying up massive amounts of Bitcoin. So again, this plays directly into the scarcity argument. The second article for today is by Markets Insider, and the headline reads, The world's biggest crypto fund manager says Bitcoin is the next step in the evolution of money, and I can't use it to buy coffee is no longer a sound argument. So this statement was made by Michael Sonnenschein, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he is the managing director of Grayscale Investments, and he added that buying Bitcoin and putting it in their portfolio is meant to be a store of value, inflation hedge and digital gold and a digital form of money. He also adds that investors should not get hung up over the fact that there are only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist, because each coin has 100 million units. These units are called Satoshis after the Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto. So this brings back to the argument, you don't have to buy an entire coin. At this stage, Bitcoin is so expensive and most normal person can't actually afford $20,000. They don't have that kind of money lying around. But you can start to dollar cost average and buying very, very small amounts over time. Just like the dollar cost averaging experiment that I've been carrying out over the last 10 episodes. Article number 3 is by Cointelegraph, and the headline reads, 4 metrics suggest Bitcoin price will correct, but can Bitcoin hit 20k first? The correction is coming, but so is 20k. It's just a case which one actually hits first. So it's going to flick through some of these. Profit taking, pullback, possibly with lower buy pressure. Anyone who's bought Bitcoin in 2017 for 20,000 at the top, who's unlucky enough to do that and has actually held and not sold, chances are when 20k rolls along, they're going to just sell and just get out and just break even. But at the same time, there's an argument to suggest that someone who has held all for that length of time and has paid attention, have read up more about Bitcoin over the last 3 years, when it does hit 20k, a bit of greed might pop up and it might go, okay, let's see if it goes 22k, 25k. So I mean, that sell off mightn't actually happen. 19,000 stands in the way of a new all-time high. Of course, during the week, it didn't quite break 19,000. It went up just to underneath 19,000. It's had a 7% correction ever since. So there's a massive sell wall there where a lot of people put in sell orders which of course is going to drive the price down. This is what I've already talked about in this episode as well. A correction might come later. Bitcoin might smash through 20,000, grind up then to like 21,000, 22, maybe to 25, maybe to higher, I don't know. And then a correction, of course, it's inevitable. So it's a case which one is going to happen first. And the last thing I want to take a look at is just by Google Trends. So if you go to Google Trends and enter Bitcoin as your search term and go to all time. So this shows back in 2017 at the peak, if that was 100% of interest in Bitcoin. We're only down here at the moment. So it's 15%. So we're only at 15% interest now compared to 100% interest in December 2017 when there was a frenzy, when, the world and its mother wants to buy Bitcoin or knew about Bitcoin. So basically there's no interest. There's no retail interest. The money is coming from people who are either in the market already or institutional investment. And then of course there is a slight increase. So maybe new people are coming into the market. So yeah, there's very little interest. Alright folks, that's the end of this episode. So if you've got any value from this episode or learned anything new, please go ahead and like and subscribe. And as usual, sláinte.